Duel 5. Keep on rocking. It's not over yet.
Buffering is the technique of doing inputs quickly enough that a follow-up comes out if your move hits, but doesn't come out if you whiff your move. If you do it properly, you can have the same input continue a chain on hit, but won't whiff multiple normals if you whiff a button. So a good example here would be 5k5h. If you buffer it right, only the 5k comes out on whiff. Another important one, 2s2h for example, where you can do the same technique. You really don't want to whiff a 2h. And jump slash jump dust, also pretty important, like so. This here is an extremely useful technique in almost every fighting game. Keep this in mind as you watch, especially the sections on poking and combos are useful in the neutral game. This is the most basic and universal kind of combo in Guilty Gear, but you will almost never use it. It is still a useful combo to know about though, because the combos that you do are variations of this. This is your default combo and it's very good. It does 50 to 70 damage and leads into a solid knockdown that you can use to start safe pressure all over again. The damage is low but is extremely reliable. You can add a close slash when you're really close. A basic combo that starts from a low this time. Good for a lot of situations. You need to be close for the follow-up after Tatami, so when a bit further away, Gatling into 5h rock on instead. You can do any Gatling into 2D really, replacing 2k close slash with 5k is also pretty common. The damage is good, but keeping up your offense after jump D knockdown can be difficult or risky, and sometimes it's better to just end with the 2D. This combo is not stable on Potemkin and Kai. This is just the previous combo cut a little bit short. For situations where it feels like Tatami jump S will fail because they're too far, or because you're talking about Kai or Potemkin, it's possible to end with 2D Kuchinashi as well, but this combo is easier. This is another variation of the basic Gatling series for converting airborne hits into knockdowns. The 5p whiffs, but it gets whiff cancelled into 5k, and when I see the 5k 5s connect on an aerial opponent, I jump cancel into jump slash dust. A low reward combo that is nevertheless an extremely safe option. Can be hit confirmed into super for basic long range poking knockdowns. Does not combo on normal hit, but reliably gives Rokonsogi knockdowns from very long ranges. This combo only works on crouching and counter hit. Not really too useful outside of block strings and very specific punishes. A really stable combo, the only big downside being you have to connect 2H to get this. Still quite useful in some matchups. Or when you get closer range 2H hit, because it is quite easy to drop Tatami jump S if 2H hits from farther away. Also in the corner this leads to extremely strong Dustloops. A great little combo that is quite easy to hit confirm. Kabari links into 5p, 2p, 5k on normal hit, also 2k. And it's really good for controlling space in many matchups. This combo is very important for getting rid of the common habits of mashing S after every attempt at Kabari. On counter hit there's a lot more leeway to do other things. Not actually a great combo for counter poking. It's best to use when 6p anti-airs somehow gives you a grounded hit, which is a situation that actually comes up pretty often. 6k counter hit links into moves as fast as 2D or slower, like 5k, 2k or 5p. There are some juicy techniques with 6k counter hits based on your range, but those are more advanced. The most unconditional 6k combo. It always works, but it generally requires a commitment into a buffered Tatami without any hit confirmation. Throw ground Tatamis outside range in the hopes that people extend into it is not as strong as using air Tatamis, but still has decent reward. The most stable hit confirm for a defensive air Tatami hit. There are many more options, like dash Kuchinashi, dash jump, jump slash dust, but dash jump, jumps PSD never fails you. Simple but very stable. The main disadvantage of this combo over 6B5H is the occasional case where 6B hits an opponent grounded. If the 6B doesn't hit and the jumping P whiffs, you can air dash back to avoid a punish, which looks something like this. Basic air to air. Jump P is a good button, just using jump slash dust is also strong. Where you're not sure if 6B jump cancel will do the trick and you confirm that 6B5H hits in the air, try to get used to hit confirming this into Kuchinashi. The combos after Kuchinashi, however, are hard and kind of advanced, so just get used to dropping it here for now. Sometimes you just scoop people with the big claw. This is the mid-screen combo. Near the corner it is just best to route into a Dustloop. Extremely simple but very strong in general due to jump S being as good as it is. Good combo, this situation comes up pretty often. The delay is not necessary but goes a long way to stabilize jump S into jump B when jump S connects from farther away. The counter hit IED jump slash combo for airborne opponents. It is possible to get better damage with the Kuchinashi loop, but this combo is the most simple and stable. The dust loop is vital to learning Baiken. The timing of the air dash is a little bit tricky, and all Baiken players occasionally drop them, so take your time with them. This is the most basic version of a dust loop. The 5H needs to be skipped on females. This requires raw Kuchinashi, which is a little bit tricky. This is the version we use against Batman, Kum and Potemkin, because they are heavier. I'd like to call attention to the fact that most of the combos we just learned can easily lead into a dust loop. Baiken's corner tick throws are especially scary because she has the ability to do a dust loop after. Baiken is a character that requires spacing adjustments for her dust loops to work. You may end up too far from the corner to end with 5H Kuchi, even on heavier characters. Here are some common troubleshooting tips. If you end with 5H Kuchi and the Kuchi Nashi whiffs, skip the 5H, even on heavier characters. Sometimes you're too far for the 5H to hit them. This means you have to get closer during the dust loop itself. You can do this with jump D, air dash, jump PSD, or jump D, air dash, jump KSD. In the event of a really weird hit, you can always use super for a guaranteed knockdown. It won't do a lot of damage, however. There are more things to work on and troubleshoot, but I recommend you try things yourself. Just try Dustloops, play her, and once you find a weird drop, feel free to ask the Baiken Discord for troubleshooting tips. I'd like to give a handful of tips on how to get these hits we just found so many combos of. And we're going to start with one of Baiken's most important moves, Tatami. To properly use the Tatami is not as simple as it seems. While IED and Cure Tatami may seem like scary approach tools, they're actually very slow and not very evasive. This, for example, can easily be hit out of by Soul doing a gun flame. Let's see if I can. Like so exactly. Thus, they should rarely be used to close distance quickly. If you want to close the distance, then jump S and jump H can be combined with Tatamis depending on spacing. For example, like so, or this, or just a jump H on its own. All very effective. Tatami is at its strongest when used either defensively, and thus while moving backwards, or when used for Okizeme, and thus when the opponent cannot retaliate at all. So for how to use Tatami in neutral, I mostly recommend you combine it with back jumps and backwards air dashes. When done from a jump, it's best to do the Tatami low to the ground. But warning, do it too low and you are in landing recovery without a Tatami appearing. For backwards air dashes, you have a lot of leeway. You can do IED backwards, or just jump and pick a time to air dash and Tatami. If the Tatami hits, you can, depending on the distance, follow up with jump punch / dust, or maybe even a grounded combo. On counter hit you have even more options, but one option I recommend against is trying to fish Tatami into Kabari. While it's possible and very stylish, it's very hard to pull off in a match and just not very reliable. Kabari is a strong poke and anti-air. I recommend these small amounts of options to use for follow-ups to learn how it works. Tetsuzansen, the S follow-up. While this is overall the best follow-up, it has some issues that I want to address. First of all, there is a 6 frame gap between H Kabari and Tetsu, so when you do it too close, every character has an option to mash out with a fast button. So Tetsu is only really 100% safe when done outside of your opponent's jab range. The other thing is that Tetsu is minus on block. Sure, it's not punishable, but you will lose your turn. Also, you may attempt Azami after Tetsu to parry their retaliation, but this is risky, and there are better risk-reward options to focus on. Though after Kabari you can pretty much always Tetsuzansen, since Air FD makes it way less gappy, and often plus on block too. And if the opponent didn't jump and your Kabari whiffed, you can still Tetsu and maybe hit them out of the poke attempt. The other strong follow-ups after Kabari are actually very simple. They are 4P, 2K and 4K. Each Kabari into one of these buttons has a very small gap and often beats opponents trying to interrupt Tetsuzansen. Note that I'm not saying 5P but 4P. This is because holding 4 prevents any follow-up from coming out, and that's especially important because you don't want to do the absolutely awful useless command grab. You don't want this, you want this. As you can see, I can jab out there. Like so. Choosing an Azami follow-up. At first I recommend using only the most practical Azami follow-ups, as some follow-ups are more useful than others. So in the event of a ground Azami versus a grounded opponent, this is a matter of using either Sakura or Rokonsogi. So the S and the H follow-up. Sakura is slow but invincible. It goes through fast moves that would stuff Rokonsogi, while Rokonsogi is fast but can be interrupted. Basically, if you know this one isn't working, try the other one. So there, you've got a showcase of when S works, when S does work and when H doesn't work. And there's a good example of how the H follow-up usually hits. Ground Azami versus an aerial opponent. This is when you do Kuchinashi, the P follow-up. Air Azami. You mash P. P Tsubaki is easily the most broken follow-up. Guilty Gear Xrd is a game where momentum is very important, so getting Okizeme after your combos is vital to getting wins. Baiken's Okizeme can be kinda tough mid-screen, but luckily the basics get very easy once you get your opponent into the corner. I'd like to focus on a handful of very easy to execute Okizeme, so you can keep your momentum going without having to grind too much in training mode. After Rokonsogi you can safe jump. This means that if your opponent blocks, you get the B+. But if they reversal, you get to block it. If you get hit by a reversal, you were too late. If the jump S whiffs, you were too early. On most characters you have to super jump as fast as possible, but on some you need to slightly delay it. The nice thing about this Okizeme is that it allows you to choose a side by either super neutral jumping or super jumping forward over your opponent. Here I am faking a safe jump, but instead doing Tatami on the way down, to get more plus frames. Feel free to always use this on characters that don't have a reversal available. Take note that it is important for you to do the Tatami low to the ground. You either manually time it, but for some people it helps to do a rising jumping P to make sure that Tatami doesn't come out too high up. Also allows for a side switch. When seeing high level players end a combo with jump D, you often see some crazy Tatami stuff. But if you have difficulty with that, this is a decent alternative. 6K cannot be thrown on wake up, so you can run up really close and throw it out. It's plus on block and thus allows for pressure and throw mix-ups, which is an obvious point to DP or super for your opponent. So make sure to occasionally bait the DP with dash FD break instead. Like so. This Okizeme is handy because it's both plus on block and it makes DPs whiff because of Kabari's hitbox. Kuchi is a very strong combo ender and it leaves your opponent close to you, where descending Tatami is extra strong. Mid-screen you usually choose between neutral jumping and forward jumping. Experiment with the benefits of each based on spacing yourself. When you jump cancel 2D and do Tatami on the way down, often enough you can still block supers. That's just how good it is. The problem is that the combo you did like no damage. When your opponent lands in the corner, they have very few options to dodge this Tatami. And DPs will whiff because you are far away from the opponent. It's very simple and extremely effective. You can do dash up and start doing pressure and mix-ups. Lastly, if you end your combo a bit further from the corner, do a neutral jump instead. Something like that, but when you actually get a knockdown. Your Zansen is Baiken's instant overhead, but it requires practice to execute well, and meter to get a combo on normal hit. If you want a little bit more reward by taking more corner carry or turning an annoying corner hit into a Dustloop, or B+ when throwing out a 2H for Konsogi. This is a good combo for finishing out a round. / Tatami is a decent poke in neutral, and RSC makes it way more rewarding. We talked about this combo previously, but I'd just like to show it one more time. We talked about this before, but if you're not sure if you can get a knockdown from your Dustloop and you have a lot of meter to spend, you can use Super to get a guaranteed knockdown. Tatami YRC is strong. On block you can dash up. If they are above you can anti-air. On hit you can get a fat combo.